Nancy Wilkins couldn't stand the sight of my disabled daughter at the playground. That day, our HOA president went too far. She tore Sarah out of the adaptive swing, shattering both of her delicate arms. Now Nancy's being prosecuted, while my 9-year-old battles through a painful recovery. One vile act flipped our world upside down. Before diving into the full story, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more powerful real-life moments. Your daughter's therapy equipment is visible from the street and goes against neighborhood standards, Nancy Wilkins declared at the HOA meeting, her voice sharp and echoing, finger pointed directly at me. She wasn't whispering. She wanted everyone to hear. We can't allow medical contraptions to ruin the image of Oak Meadows. Every gaze shifted toward us. Heat surged through my face, rage mixed with humiliation. That contraption is a therapy swing, I said, carefully keeping my voice calm. It helps Sarah build strength, and it's located in our fenced backyard, only visible if someone's intentionally spying. Nancy clicked her manicured nails on the table, her smile never reaching her eyes. Neighbors have raised concerns. Maybe it's time you think about relocating to a community more suitable for people with special needs. A ripple of gas rolled through the room. Even Nancy's usual allies seemed stunned. You want us to leave because my daughter has a disability? I asked, stunned. I'm saying Oak Meadows has expectations, Nancy snapped. People shouldn't have to look at medical gear while enjoying their yards. It's a swing, my husband Tom cut in, and I don't recall any bylaws banning therapy tools in private yards. Nancy's expression hardened. The board has discretion. If we deem something an eyesore, we act. Expect a formal violation notice by tomorrow. And that was just the beginning of what our life became. We had only been in Oak Meadows for 6 months, but from day one, Nancy Wilkins, the HOA president, seemed personally insulted by my daughter's existence. She wielded her power like a weapon, using every excuse to make us feel like outsiders. Then came that Saturday. The moment I heard Sarah's piercing scream, my heart felt like it stopped beating. I was sitting quietly on a bench at Oak Grove Playground, keeping a close eye on her as she played on the special swing, the one built for children who can't walk. Sarah's condition leaves her bones fragile and her muscles too weak to support her body. She's been in a wheelchair since the age of 4, and yet she remains the brightest, most fearless 9-year-old I know. That morning had begun with so much hope. Sarah had talked nonstop all week about visiting the new playground, the one specially designed to be inclusive for children with mobility issues. The city had gone all out to make sure every child could play there, not just the ones who could run, jump, and climb. Mom, can we go to Butterfly Park today? She had asked with sparkling eyes. She gave it that name because the main play structure looked like enormous butterfly wings. Of course, sweetheart, I said, smiling. Dad has work, but it'll be our special day. Just you and me. Her grin was everything. Getting ready was a process. Packing her medication, extra padding for her wheelchair, and enough snacks to keep her energized. But her joy made every step worth it. The playground was already buzzing when we arrived. Kids racing across the grass, swinging high, laughter everywhere. Parents chatted nearby, sipping coffee, casually glancing at their children. I lifted Sarah into the adaptive swing, a seat made with safety straps to hold kids like her snugly and securely. She loved it. Swinging was the closest she ever came to the feeling of flying. And then, everything changed. Push me higher, Mom. I want to touch the clouds. Sarah giggled as I gave her a gentle push. I was always careful, always aware of how delicate her little body was. But I also knew how important it was to let her experience the pure joy so many other kids got without even thinking. We'd been at the park for maybe 20 minutes when I spotted her, a woman standing off to the side, eyes narrowed, arms crossed. She looked like someone out of a lifestyle magazine, dressed in designer clothes and hair perfectly styled in a way that didn't budge, even in the breeze. I recognized her immediately, Nancy Wilkins, president of our homeowners association. The same woman who once criticized the ramp we built at our front door for Sarah's wheelchair, claiming it ruined Oak Meadows' curb appeal. I tried not to let her ruin the moment, focusing instead on Sarah's laughter and the way her face lit up as the swing moved back and forth. But Nancy wasn't going to be ignored. She strutted toward us with sharp heels tapping on the pavement, her expensive purse swinging like a weapon. "Excuse me," she snapped. "How much longer are you planning to monopolize that swing? My grandkids are waiting, and you've been here quite a while." I blinked, looking around. There wasn't a single child anywhere near the adaptive swing. In fact, it was the only piece of equipment not surrounded by kids. "I don't see anyone waiting," I replied, keeping my tone calm. "This swing was made for children with disabilities. There are 5 regular swings right over there, and they're all empty." Nancy's expression darkened. "This entire park is public property. All equipment here is for everyone. These special setups cost taxpayers enough as it is. It's selfish to hog them." Sarah had stopped swinging. She could feel the tension and uncertainty in the air. "Mom, what's going on?" she asked quietly, her smile slipping away. "Nothing, sweetie," I reassured Sarah, trying to keep my voice light. "We're just having a conversation. You keep swinging." Nancy, arms crossed and eyes steely, wasn't done yet. "I'm on the Parks Committee," she said coldly, "and we've set a 5-minute time limit for all playground equipment when there are others waiting." "But no one is waiting," I said, my patience starting to thin. "And this swing is the only one Sarah can use." "Rules are rules," Nancy countered, her voice unwavering. "My grandkids are curious about it. They want to try. They'll have their turn when Sarah's finished." I felt my pulse quicken. She doesn't get many chances to play like other kids. Please just let her enjoy it a little longer. And then everything shifted. Without another word, Nancy stepped forward, her hand reaching for the safety harness that was holding Sarah in place. "What are you doing?" I cried, rushing forward, but my feet felt like they were stuck in cement. I wasn't fast enough. "These special needs families always think they deserve special treatment," Nancy muttered, her fingers prying the strap loose. "Time for you to learn how to follow the rules, like everyone else." Sarah, unable to support herself without the harness, began to topple to the side. I lunged, but it was too late. She was slipping, and I was too far to save her. With no ability to catch herself, Sarah plummeted from the swing, her fragile body hitting the hard rubber surface with a sickening thud. The sound of her scream, sharp, raw, still echoes in my mind. "Sarah!" I dropped to my knees beside her. The sight was unmistakable, the kind of sight a mother never forgets. Both her arms were bent at impossible angles. Her delicate bones had snapped beneath the force of the fall. "You see what happens when you don't follow the rules?" Nancy's cold words sliced through the air. Nancy took a step back, her voice cold and detached. "If you just let other children have a turn, none of this would have happened." I could hardly believe what I was hearing. "Someone call an ambulance!" I shouted to the crowd that had gathered around us. A young father, already on his phone, was speaking with 911. A woman, who introduced herself as a nurse, knelt beside Sarah, carefully assessing her without moving her. Another parent was filming everything on her phone, capturing the evidence. "Don't touch her," the nurse said firmly to Nancy as she tried to move closer. "You've done enough damage." "It was an accident," Nancy stammered, glancing around at the growing crowd, her expression defensive. "The swing must have been defective. I was just trying to help the other children have a turn." "No one was waiting for this swing," several voices shot back in unison. "We all saw what you did." The ambulance arrived within minutes, and the paramedics were incredibly gentle with Sarah. They carefully stabilized her arms, wincing at the unnatural angles before moving her. One of the paramedics exchanged a grim look with his partner when he saw the fractures. "Her bones are very fragile," I explained, my voice breaking through my tears. "She has osteogenesis imperfecta. Even a small fall can cause breaks." As they loaded Sarah into the ambulance, a police officer approached. The parent who had filmed the incident was already showing him the video. "Do you want to press charges?" the officer asked me quietly, his voice steady but compassionate. "Yes," I said, without a moment's hesitation. "This wasn't an accident." At the hospital, the news was far worse than I had feared. Both of Sarah's arms were broken in multiple places. She would need surgery to have pins inserted into her bones, followed by months of casts and excruciating physical therapy. For a child who had already been fighting for her independence, This was an unimaginable blow. When my husband Tom arrived at the hospital, still in disbelief at the events that had unfolded, Tom arrived at the hospital, his work uniform still on, his face pale with a mixture of shock and fury. "Who would do this to a child?" he kept repeating, his voice trembling with anger. "What kind of monster hurts a disabled little girl?" The next few weeks were the hardest of our lives. Sarah underwent 2 surgeries and woke up crying in agony, despite the pain medication. She needed help with everything: eating, bathing, using the bathroom. For a child who had fought so hard for every ounce of independence, this new total dependence was just as painful as the broken bones. "Why does Mrs. Wilkins hate me, Mom?" she asked one night, tears in her eyes as I helped her eat. "I wasn't doing anything wrong," she added, her voice small and vulnerable. I didn't have an answer. How could I explain adult cruelty to a child? Meanwhile, Nancy had been arrested. She was charged with assault, causing serious bodily harm to a disabled person, an unforgivable felony in our state. The video evidence was devastating, clearly showing her removing Sarah's safety harness, despite my frantic protests. Multiple witnesses came forward, corroborating not only that incident, but others where Nancy had shown overt hostility toward families with special needs children. It turned out she had sent an email to the Parks Department complaining about the money spent on accessible equipment. "Regular children are being shortchanged to accommodate a tiny minority," she had written. That email became a key part of the evidence against her. What shocked us the most, however, was the community's response. Neighbors we barely knew brought us meals, checked in on Sarah, and offered to help. Their kindness was overwhelming, and it became a source of strength during this unimaginable time. Sarah's recovery was going to be a long and difficult road, but knowing we weren't entirely alone made the burden easier to bear. Classmates made cards, and video messages flooded in, offering words of comfort and encouragement. The local adaptive sports program even offered free physical therapy sessions once Sarah was ready to begin her recovery. The most touching support, however, came from the families of other disabled children who reached out to share their own experiences. Though none were as violent as what happened to Sarah, many admitted they avoided public playgrounds, afraid of the stares, the comments, and the occasional hostility. 3 months after that fateful day, Sarah was finally having her cast removed, and Nancy's case was set to go to trial. Her attorney tried to spin the incident as an unfortunate accident, a concerned citizen trying to ensure fair use of public equipment, someone who simply didn't understand the special needs of a disabled child. But the jury wasn't swayed. The video evidence was undeniable. The witness statements were consistent, and the chilling words Nancy had spoken immediately after the incident made it clear that her actions were not just a mistake, but a reflection of her true disdain for disabled children and their families. After just 2 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict on all counts. Nancy was sentenced to 4 years in prison, with additional requirements to complete community service with organizations that serve disabled individuals. She was also ordered to pay for all of Sarah's medical expenses. "The court takes crimes that target vulnerable citizens very seriously," the judge stated during sentencing. This was not a momentary lapse in judgment, but a deliberate act that caused severe harm to a disabled child, simply trying to enjoy a playground like any other child. Outside the courthouse, reporters crowded around, eager to hear how we felt about the verdict. "We're not celebrating someone going to prison," I said, my voice steady but raw. "We just want justice for Sarah." Tom's voice trembled with relief as he said, "We're thankful the justice system understood the gravity of what happened to our daughter." Sitting in her wheelchair, her arms still in lightweight braces, Sarah asked softly if she could speak. The reporters lowered their microphones, eager to hear from her. "I just want all kids to feel safe at playgrounds," she said, her voice clear and sweet, carrying a weight that stunned everyone in the room. "It's not fair that some kids are scared to play because grown-ups don't want them there. Playgrounds are for everyone." Her simple, poignant words struck a chord, making headlines throughout the region. The city's Parks Department, motivated by the case and the publicity it generated, announced an ambitious new initiative to make all public playgrounds fully accessible. They also promised to train staff on disability awareness, ensuring the safety and inclusion of every child. 6 months after that tragic day, Sarah returned to the butterfly playground for the first time. I could feel her nervousness as she clung to my hand while we approached the adaptive swing area. "What if someone gets mad at me again?" she whispered, fear still lingering in her eyes. I knelt beside her, trying to soothe her. "Look around, sweetie," I said gently. The playground had transformed. New signs now explained that the adaptive equipment was primarily for disabled children, but could be used by all when not in use. A mural adorned the entrance, a beautiful depiction of children with different abilities playing together. And, most importantly, a park attendant stood by, trained to ensure the safety and inclusion of all children. But what truly took my breath away was the change in the families using the park. Parents were more aware, more considerate, and children, regardless of ability, played together. Older kids often helped younger or disabled ones navigate the equipment. As Sarah settled into the adaptive swing, her safety harness securely fastened, a little boy approached with his mother. "Can I swing next to her?" he asked, pointing to a regular swing. "Of course," I smiled, feeling a weight lift from my chest. Soon the two children were swinging side by side, an image of inclusion and acceptance. Every kid can have that chance. Her words, spoken with such sincerity and maturity, resonated deeply with everyone in the crowd. There was a collective sense of pride, not just for Sarah, but for the entire community that had rallied together to make sure no child would ever feel unwelcome again. As Sarah accepted her award, I couldn't help but think about how far we had come from that horrible day. From the heartache, fear, and anger to this moment of triumph and advocacy, Sarah had turned something that could have broken us into something beautiful. She had shown the world the true meaning of strength, courage, and love. Nancy Wilkins may be in prison, but the impact of what she did, though tragic, led to a wave of change that has touched so many lives. And while I can't say that I have forgiven her, I know that the most important thing is the change we've created for the future, where all kids, regardless of their abilities, can feel safe, included, and loved. As for Sarah, she's still asked to touch the clouds every time we visit the playground, and each time there's nothing but joy and freedom in her heart as she swings higher and higher, unburdened by fear or hate, just a child living her best life. The words Sarah spoke at the playground that day have since become a guiding light, reminding us all that the true measure of justice lies not just in what we do in response to tragedy, but in the lasting changes we create. As much as that moment of cruelty shattered our family, it also sparked something profound. The new playgrounds, the increased awareness, the new policies, all are tangible evidence of how far our community has come since that dark day. Sarah's story is one of resilience, not just because of her ability to heal physically, but because she showed us that change doesn't need to come from a place of bitterness. It can come from a place of love, compassion, and courage. Her broken arms may have healed, but the bridges built in the aftermath will never fade. The transformation that followed Nancy Wilkins' actions continues to ripple outward, reminding us that every child deserves the same opportunities to play, learn, and grow. No child should ever have to fear being excluded because of their differences. Through Sarah's voice, the community learned what true inclusion looks like, and it's a lesson we continue to carry forward. That tragic day may have started as an act of cruelty, but Sarah turned it into something far more powerful, a legacy of hope and change that will continue to inspire long after the pain of that day has passed.